What's going on, my friends? I hope that you are well. I want to get on, and I get stuff on my mind. I want to talk about it. Definitely something, and this is pertaining to something contractual or something that a lot of people lately have been talking about. Or, of course, they've always been talking about it over the course of time, and they get this thing about money for their tracks up front, but they don't understand the grand picture of it all. And they end up getting into signing a contract, waiving something, or in a bad situation. I'm always watching YouTube videos about music licensing, about learning how to run my DAW better or something musically. It's always something, I always get these suggestions that always pop up. And I'm not going to talk about Epidemic Sound. Go watch my video on that. That's self-explanatory. That's something you want to stay the hell away from, to be honest. Anybody that tells you you can't use a PRO, don't sign any music with those people. Don't do that. Tries to mislead you and tell you, but I'm going to talk about something I was thinking about today, and that I am. There's been a lot of talk about, what is your take on taking music upfront money for your tracks? And one of the videos I was watching was something about, what about up money for your tracks and waiving all your back end? Well, I didn't even watch that video. I'll bet you he was talking about Epidemic Sound. But I'll talk about the latter part of it. A lot of people are talking about, if you are in these forums or in these places and people in groups talk about, man, you need to get the libraries that pay money up front for your tracks. Get these libraries that pay you money up front. Don't mess with these other libraries. You got to pay only the libraries that pay money up front. Now, I will tell you that every year I see a composer who's connected in this industry. He's incredible. He's got his own catalog with APM. He's great. Even the last few years, he's looked at me and said, you and I have been talking, and I have to say you're right about the back end and not to worry about the front end, man. I get it, but I've always, because he used to tell me first start, man, you need to get these libraries that pay you money up front for your tracks. But there's a problem. There's a caveat there, my friends. Now, let me break something down and preface something real quick. It is very few and far between, very few that you know of. And if it's going on, nobody's talking about it. In fact, I got an idea of a couple people I've met over time that have these contracts with certain libraries, but don't talk about it. Is that you're not going to really find a library, and if you do, you knocked it out the park. That's a grand slam right there, buddy. That's a touchdown. That gives you money up front for every track, along with getting your 100% writers and giving you sync money as it's placed. Now, what some of you may not understand is that if you sign your tracks to a library and they say, we're going to give you $150 a track up front, and if you've got, well over $1,000 or more, $1,200 if you've got 10 tracks in that album, that may sound good up front. But let me break it down, the reality of that, what you're signing. What you're signing there is simply this. You're taking that money up front for those tracks. You get your 100% writers on the back end, and the publisher gets their 100% publishing like you're supposed to. But you're never going to see any sync money from the placement of those tracks ever again. In other words, when I say sync money, let's say that track is placed in the commercial, and they contact that library saying, listen, we'd like to give you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 sync licensing money up front to license that track for this Mercedes commercial, or $10,000. Some of the budgets can be pretty big. And the library says, great, that sounds good. We'll license it. And it gets reported on the cue sheets, and you get some back end. You notice that you've had a promo ad or a commercial where you got placed for a Mercedes ad, and it was $100 a clip or time. The publisher got $100. It would have been $200 if you were doing it on your own, which is another subject. Very rarely does that ever happen with a composer because, they make the relationships. They're your salespeople. Let them do it. But that's another, I digress on that. But you're not going to see that half of that money. In other words, let's say that budget was $6,000 licensing for that Mercedes commercial. You get $3,000 of it. Your publisher gets $3,000 of it, that 50-50 deal. You're not going to see a dime of that money. Why? Because you took that $1,000 up front for those 10 or 15 tracks, and you contractually waived your future sync money, placement money. But you're going to get the 100% writers on that. And I'm going to tell you, I've made more than that $1,200 on some tracks I've put with libraries. And I've had, I had one particular library, there's several of them. Like, you sure, man? Like, no, I'm gonna take my bet and gamble that later. I don't want to take the risk that I'm gonna lose out on something big later, possibly. I know it's great to make that $1,000, and I will make my 100% on my back end for my riders, but I'm okay. I'm not that desperate for money. I'm not. And you have to think about these things, because you're gonna start going, "What do you mean I didn't get it?" Well, you signed, you waived your future rights. There's no sync payments after. There's no licensing payments. You get your back end, but you waive that because you took that $1,200 up front. I had a publisher that I don't send him music much anymore because I don't like his deal. He only releases music once a year, but he distributes to the same platform that I work with another library on. So I'm this guy's 50-50. Right, I get my 100% writers. I get my sync money. I've got little sync payments, my licensing that has done, and I 100% on my back end, and it's exclusive, and I'm good with that. It's 50. We split any sync money that comes down the pike on through that distributor too. So they distribute through Primal House Music. But this guy was like, okay, I have a non-exclusive and exclusive. So I signed a few tracks. I said, exclusive is $130 a track up front, and you get your 100% back end. But I waive my sync money in the future. Non-exclusive is like you get sync money and you get your back end, but the split for the sync money is 60-40. It's not even 50-50. I'm not doing that. But I signed it non-exclusive, but it's going to be exclusive with it. I signed it as if it's exclusive because I didn't sign those tracks with anybody else but him. Simple as that. But he does something weird with the tracks. He drops the BPM some notches and drops the dang key about a few semitones below key, I guess, so he makes sure it doesn't, just in case it doesn't conflict with other, it doesn't pick up and conflict with other libraries. And he retitles it. It's kind of a smart thing to do for a library, but kind of weird. But that's okay. They've gotten placements. I'm good. I got my 100% writers, but he owes me 60% of any sync payments. But you also have to know that some of these libraries some won't even pay it. You don't even know if they're getting it. That's the frustrating part about it. I've got a library now I know it's probably taking sync money, but they're not paying it. They're doing blanket deals and stuff. But I'll tell you also, don't ever sign a contract with someone just arbitrarily takes 50% of your writers with no reason at all. No plan, no nothing. Especially, don't do it without a reversion clause. And I say reversion, you got a year or 3 years that you can take that out of that catalog if it's not working out. Give it time. I'm a proponent of set it, forget it, and don't fret it. But sometimes in a situation like that, you need to have it. Now, I sign music with the library. I can't talk about the contract. Can't tell you what library. They've asked us not to talk about it. But there's only one library I signed that got 50% of writers. And I said, I'm going to do it. I put it in my calendar on my phone, 3 years. If there's no activity, I'm taking those tracks out. Well, it so happens that those tracks are staying and I'm writing more for them. That's not the only library I write for now, but they get me a lot of placements. And they're growing and growing and growing. My only thing is if you get in that situation, just make sure you understand that if they're taking 50% of writers, there may be a reason. Just know that you may have to put a little bit more volume than norm just to get extra volume so it makes up a difference for some of the placement. But their placement returns, and this sounds weird, I know it does, but just follow me, is the average return on those placements is a little bit more than 100%. It's probably about 150% on the average because of the rate of them coming in. So it's worth it in one regard. They are saying, like some may be saying, well, we've got to do this in order to grow your placements more and try to maybe give up some of the publishing. I don't know. But you're going to do a library, it may say that. And I don't know. I'll never know the truth on that. But I do know that I've had one library at the conference who takes 150% writers. He has no reason. Now, when I'm saying the library I signed with had a good reason, I can't talk about it. There was some other things going much deeper than what I just stated. But But in reality, I think I know some other reasons why, and I'll tell you. You might can read between the lines, but there's one library that that I have met at the conference, and I don't want to call the guy's name out. He's a great guy. He's an incredible composer, nice guy. But when I was talking to him at the conference, first thing comes out of his mouth, I'm going to take half your writers. I'm like, whoa, why? And you should ask why. They need to explain to you why they want to take half your writers, to be honest. You need a good explanation and a plan. There should be a reason. Because there's no guarantee he's going to get you placed, but you also need to make sure there's a reversion clause to get you out of that. You don't want to sign that in perpetuity and the tracks are gone. He's taking half your writers. He never gets in place. They're stuck, But there's no guarantee anyway on that. But just make sure in that situation, you get a reversion clause or don't sign it. Most people are not going to sign that. His reason to me was simply this, and if they tell you this, don't sign the contract, is it's because I'm doing the paperwork and we're doing the revisions back and forth. I'm like, I said to him, I don't think he liked it. That's why you're getting 100% of writers. That doesn't, we're not writing. And if we were composing this stuff together, I'd understand. It's a collaboration. It's a collaboration indeed. And if you sign a deal like that and you're getting a ton of placements and you just have to put a little bit extra volume in there to make up the difference and really get it in there, and you get a ton of placements, you look at it as a collaboration. Sometimes, you have to look at it this way. I'd rather have 50% of 100 than 100% of nothing. And that particular contract, I talked to some guys that knew the owner, and I knew him real well, and they did music for him. That's basically how they stayed to me, Chris. I said, Chris, I gave him half to. I get they're playing what they're doing. Let them roll with it. You'll see. You're going to see the return, and I have. But it's not often that happens. I got lucky on that deal, if you want to be truthful about it. But I'm pumping them music, but they're not the only library I write for. You have to be diverse and write for a few different libraries. I've talked about this before. Get your portfolio, because this business is like that was told to me years ago. It's like your 401k. You got to keep contributing to it, and it's working for you. And you have to exponentially grow it. It's an exponential growth. I'm seeing growth in mine. Have been, and it's great. But that particular library, I wouldn't have signed that deal with him. I didn't think it was cool. And I don't want to call him out, but you're gonna have that, but not often, because the big thing is every writer deserves 100% of their writers, and I think in time that may change legally where they have to do that. Now, and you can read between the lines. Here's my opinion, and really what I know is happening. If you get a library that's taking half of your writers, 50%. And they've got a couple partners in it, I think the true reason why they're doing it, and if you think about it, it makes a world of sense. One day they're going to sell that library. They're going to sell that library. And when they sell it for what the sale of the business, the library, and that company that bought it gets 100% of that publishing. Well, the owners that just sold it walk away with every song in that catalog. Half writers on every writer in that. So it is what it is. I mean, think about it. It's smart, but it's not. I don't think it's cool to do. But at this juncture, at the placements I'm getting, I don't mind it, because the rate is coming in a bit more than 100% per placement. Because there may be one per track out of many that's getting multiple placements from places, and the other track multiple placements in different placements. And I'm just seeing it compounding in my royalty statement. So sometimes it's okay to do that. Don't be afraid of it. But my point today is you need to know what you're signing. Know what you're signing. I just told you. Understand the terminology in this business and the types of contracts you're signing. And my biggest purpose of getting on here today was, if you get a library that's offering you cash up front for those, you need to ask the questions. You need to say, am I waiving my future sync licensing payments? Making sure I'm getting 100% of my back end, but if I'm taking this money up front, am I getting any license sync fees paid to me later on down the road? If they say no, you go to them and you ask them, I need you to show me in the contract where it says that. I need to know. And if you know the section where all of that percentile and that terminology is, that's why you need to learn these contracts. That's why, hang on one second, I'm going to show you something. We'll talk about some books you need to read, but I've talked about this book before. This book right here called Hey, That's My Song, from that couple, Vance and Tracy Marino. Good people. I see them at the conference every year. They're so active in this business. There's sample contracts in here. They tell you how to read them. Learn how to read these contracts. You don't need an attorney. You just need to understand what each section means and the important things in that contract, the important points that you need to read about it. Make them show you. Make them explain that to you. Make them put it in an email for you, because that means the most. I'm going to tell you another side tip. On every library you work with, keep every email correspondence with them. And I don't care if it's have a nice day or how's your day going. You keep every correspondence, because things said in those emails. It saved my butt not too long ago. I talked about it. And, Jingle Punks called me. They called me and said, we got a track that's conflicted with another library, with Derek Love Music, DL Music. And it's supposed to be exclusive with us. And I said, well, let me check on this, because something's wrong here. I just don't, I'm not the kind of person, I've been doing this too long. I wouldn't intentionally do that. Something happened. And I was trying to figure it out. And I looked in my emails and I found out the problem is that the girl that was working for DL Music at the time said, these 13 tracks we're not going to use right now, but you're more than welcome. Everything, the ownership reverts back to you. You're more welcome to take them anywhere you need to go. And all 13 went over to Jingle Punks, but 1 or 2, they signed over at DL because they made a mistake and it slipped through the cracks. That's about the best example I can give you, folks. So DL accepted it. They told Jingle Punks, it's yours, take it. We're going to remove it from our category. It was our fault. Saved my butt a little bit. But libraries understand stuff happens. I've been with Jingle Punks since 2010. Now, I want to tell you something else that's kind of bugging me is that, and y'all, I need y'all to chime in and tell me if you've seen a video from this girl talking about this. But she is supposedly a music attorney, and I think her channel is stated music attorney or something. And she's talking about music licensing. And the other day, one example, she's leaving little details out that you need to know. Like, she's talking about things, but there's little connected details that she's leaving out. And I don't think she's intentionally leaving them out, but she's not realizing that there's little pertinent, tiny pieces of information you need to know. And one is, she started talking about the other day, it wasn't leaving it out, she was wrong on, but even an attorney can be wrong, saying, well, there you have options of where you can put your music and music licensing. And she said you could do stock libraries. For instance, companies like Jingle Punks and Epidemic Sound and correction, timeout, Jingle Punks is not a stock library. You may not realize, but it's not. They're an exclusive sync library. They've been one for years. When I started out with them, they were non-exclusive and could have been stock, but they weren't. They were getting a lot of placements. They get me a lot of placements. She was wrong about that. But, she's talking about things, but she's leaving little details about like what I just talked about out. Now, I haven't seen a video from her talking about the cash up front things. She's just talking about types of contracts and didn't get into a lot of detail. If you see a video about her talking about it, I'd love to see it. I'm going to get on her channel. I think I'm going to watch more videos of what she's talking about. It'll give me something to talk about, and I don't want to call her out, but you got to give people that information. That's a part of watch a lot, as much as you can on YouTube about what people know about music licensing. And the key here is that there's a pattern. The majority of people are talking about one thing. Odds are it's something that's legit. It's something that's getting you in the right direction. If you get one person that says something that's a little different, even if it's an attorney, and they may be an attorney and not working in the industry, what I gather is she may be a musician working in the industry too. I don't know. I need to dig into her channel more. But if you've seen her channel and you have seen a video of her talking about this, let me know. Let me see here. I have watched her videos, and she's cute and adorable, but she's not. It's called Top Music Attorney. That's her channel. And go watch it. And let me know if she has a video talking about this. I couldn't find it. I was like, she needs to talk about this stuff. About what to and not to when you read certain contracts. I'm going to go back and see if I can dig in. I haven't watched but a few videos from her, but she may have some good, insightful information, but even she can have things wrong sometimes too. So just be careful on that deal. So my point here today, not to make 20 minutes out of it, but I did. Please be careful what you're signing and know what you're signing. Please understand the types of contracts. Please understand some terms that you need to know. Understand before you get your mind on, these libraries pay me money up front. They pay me money up front. Know what you're waiving in the back end. You're waiving any more sync payments for licensing, but you're getting 100% of your writers. Pay attention to that stuff, folks, because libraries like to put that in there because they don't want to have to pay sync money later. They want to monopolize on that. Best tip I can give you today. I hope you guys are well. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Be cool.